You think darkness is empty. You think fog is just weather. You think the figure you saw on the side of the road was just a person. These people thought the same thing. I'm your host, and this is American Nightmares. Some things can't be explained, not by science, not by logic, not by telling yourself you were just tired. American Nightmares is a collection of true first-person accounts from ordinary people, people like you, who encountered something they still can't make sense of. No actors, no scripts, no embellishments, just the dark and what was waiting in it. New stories every week. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and whatever you do, don't drive alone at night. A man driving alone at night on a foggy stretch of Northern California's Highway 101 encounters the same mysterious figure twice on the roadside, impossibly far apart, and then a third time, blocking the road entirely. When he tries to escape, something strikes his car with violent force. There is no other vehicle. When he gets home, the damage is real. It was a Sunday night in 2022. Our narrator, we'll call him Marcus, had just left his parents' house in Eureka, California, headed south on Highway 101 back to Oakland. 4 hours of dark, narrow, two-lane road with no cell service and barely any lights. He'd done the drive before. He knew what he was getting into. What he didn't know was that tonight, the road had something waiting for him. Around Trinidad, about an hour south of Eureka, the fog came in fast, not gradual, not the typical coastal haze. Within 5 minutes, visibility dropped to 20 feet. The center line was barely visible. Marcus slowed to 35 and kept moving. That's when he saw the first figure. A man standing on the right shoulder, tall, still, facing the road, not waving, not on his phone, not walking, just standing there in the dark like he'd been placed there. Marcus slowed to a crawl as he passed. The man didn't move, didn't turn his head, didn't react at all. Marcus told himself, broken down car somewhere, guys waiting for a ride. Weird, but fine. He kept driving. 10 minutes later, the headlights caught another figure on the shoulder. Same height, same dark clothes, same rigid posture. But this time, left side of the road. Marcus had been the only car on the road. There were no crossroads, no exits, no way this man could have gotten ahead of him. He looked anyway, and the man looked back. Their eyes locked as Marcus rolled past, and he felt something drop in his chest, that instinct your body knows before your brain catches up. He pressed the gas. The fog thickened, 45, then slower, and then headlights caught something in the middle of the road, not on the shoulder, in the lane. A hooded figure standing perfectly still directly in Marcus's path. He stopped. He flashed his brights. Nothing. He waited. Nothing. When he checked his rearview mirror, there was someone back there, too, creeping toward the car from behind. He was boxed in. Marcus yanked the wheel right, crossed the center line, and hit the gas. He cleared the figure in the road. He thought he was free. Then, something hit the back of his car. Hard. The kind of impact that jolts your whole frame. A deep, metallic crunch. He kept driving, didn't stop. When he finally looked in the mirror, the road behind him was empty. No figures, no cars. Nothing. By the time Marcus reached the highway interchange, his hands had stopped shaking. He convinced himself it was exhaustion, fatigue hallucinations, the fog playing tricks. Then he walked around to the back of his car. The rear bumper was destroyed. A massive dent nearly the full width of the car. No paint transfer, no skid marks, no guardrail nearby. He called the police to file a report. They had no explanation. Marcus still doesn't. A college senior goes for an afternoon run on a wooded trail he's known since childhood. The trail has no forks,
No branches. It's a loop he's run hundreds of times. At the 3-mile mark, where home should be, he's still deep in the forest. Then something begins following him, and when he finally escapes, there's something standing at the tree line watching him go. Our second narrator, we'll call him Jordan, is a senior in college. Spring break, back in his suburban hometown. Nothing to do, so he laces up and heads out for a run on a trail he knows like his own bedroom. The route is a 3-mile loop, 1/4 mile through the neighborhood, 2.5 miles through a wooded trail with one path, no forks, no branches, then back out onto the street, 1 block from his front door. He'd run it hundreds of times in high school. He could do it blindfolded. Except the fog that day was unlike anything he'd seen in that town before. It looked artificial, thick and low, dissolving everything past 30 feet into pale nothing. Jordan almost skipped the run, but the trail was a straight shot. He had his GPS watch. Getting lost wasn't a possibility. For the first 1.5 miles, everything was fine. At the 2.5-mile mark, Jordan checked his watch. He should have been approaching the exit, the left curve, the small hill, the street. Instead, he was still in the middle of the woods. Dense trees on both sides, fog everywhere. He figured the GPS was off. Old watch, dense canopy. He kept running. His watch hit 3 miles. Still in the forest. Jordan stopped. He was not a superstitious person. He ran through the logic. One trail, no forks, no way to get lost unless he'd physically left the path, which he hadn't. The GPS was clearly malfunctioning. He made the only rational call. Turn around, retrace his steps, get back to the trailhead. He turned around and started running back. At 4 miles total, the woods went silent. Not quiet, silent. No birds, no wind, and then a sound. Low and droning, almost human. It swelled and dipped in waves like a siren made of a voice. Jordan had never heard anything like it. He couldn't locate a direction. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. He started running faster. The sound kept pace. No matter how fast he ran, and his legs were burning now, over 4 miles in, whatever was making that sound matched him exactly. Every time he looked back, nothing, just fog and trees, but the sound was still there. He ran until he burst out of the tree line and hit pavement. He nearly collapsed, stood there catching his breath, hands on his knees. Then he looked back into the woods. Something was standing just inside the tree line, motionless, dark, tall, much taller than a person, 7 feet at least. It swayed, just slightly, back and forth, like it was breathing. Jordan turned and ran home without looking back. He told his parents. They said it was probably a tall person trying to scare him. Jordan doesn't believe that, because nothing that tall is human, and nothing human makes a sound like that while running full speed through dark woods. 2 experienced kayakers paddle into Willapa Bay, Washington on a foggy Saturday morning. They hear oars, not paddles, somewhere in the fog nearby. The rowing gets closer. Then they see something that shouldn't be there. Our final narrator, we'll call him Daniel, is an experienced kayaker. His friend and paddling partner, Cole, had worked as a kayak guide for 3 summers. These were not amateurs. They'd been planning a kayaking trip to Willapa Bay on the Washington coast for 2 years, a massive tidal estuary, 25 miles long, mostly oyster farms and wildlife refuge. On a clear day, one of the most peaceful places on Earth. It was not a clear day. They launched early Saturday morning out of Nakata. The fog was thick, the coastal kind that muffles everything, makes you feel like you're paddling through gauze. They had GPS, a compass, and a plan. Out to Long Island, lunch on a sandbar, back before the afternoon tide shift. They'd both done it in worse conditions. The first hour was uneventful. Then, around 9 in the morning, Daniel heard something. Splashing. Rhythmic. Not a paddle stroke. The sound was different, heavier. Oars. The kind you'd use on a rowboat. Somewhere off to the right, maybe 100 feet out, invisible in the fog. Cole heard it too. They stopped paddling and listened.
The rowing continued, steady, getting closer. They waited for the boat to emerge from the fog. A fisherman, maybe, checking crab pots, a recreational rower, someone with a rational reason to be out here. The rowing got louder. And then it stopped. The silence was immediate and total, not fading, just gone, like a switch had been flipped. Daniel and Cole drifted, not speaking, staring into gray nothing. Then Cole grabbed Daniel's arm. Something had broken the surface of the water ahead of them. Not a splash, a slow, deliberate emergence. A shape, rising. Too large for a seal, the wrong shape for any animal either of them could name. It didn't surface fully, just enough to be seen, just enough to look at them. And then it slipped back under. No sound, no ripple, just gone. They paddled back to shore without discussing what they'd seen. By the time they reached the put-in, they'd already started convincing themselves it was a trick of fog and fatigue, a harbor seal from a weird angle, their imaginations filling in the blanks. Daniel still doesn't talk about it much, but he hasn't been back to Willapa Bay.